In this video, we discuss why you need one of these tools. Stay tuned. Welcome back and/or to the channel. Sorry about my frustration, but this tool will save you so much time and energy that it is a necessity to have in your toolbox. And the reason I'm frustrated is I just got done doing tires on two different vehicles. I needed tires broken off the bead and new valve stems put in. I needed rear tires installed on the two-wheel drive tank and everything rebalanced. When they did that, they failed to torque the wheels to the proper torque spec. They used an impact, locked them down, and walked away. This is a very, very bad approach. So yes, I'm a little hot, I'm a little frustrated by it because I don't like my wheels being over torqued. They can stretch out the wheel studs and possibly snap them. If they snap going down the road, your wheel is going to keep going right by you, and you're going to hit the ground and go for a ditch or for oncoming traffic. Not a good idea. It is very, very crucial to torque your wheels. There is a certain and very specific torque that each wheel needs. How you find those is you can go online. A lot of times you will find the information that you need with just a basic Google search. Other times, they will be listed in your owner's manuals. I can tell you for the vehicles that I have, this one I torque at 110. I've never had a wheel come off. This one, the internet is saying at 83 foot-pounds. I'm probably going to go to 90 because I want a little bit more torque on the wheel to know that it's not going to come off. 83 seems very light to me. The Crimson 5.7, which is not here, it will be soon when these are done, is at 135 foot-pounds. That is one of the highest torques that I've seen on wheels so far. Where these vehicles are at right now is beyond that. And that's because somebody used an impact. Let me get mine. This is what's called an impact. This one is apparently an electric, not an air. And it's great for breaking bolts loose. Excellent for that. It's what it's designed to do, is to break them loose. You do not torque with these things. These things go to like 600 foot-pounds or possibly 400 depending on which one you have. This one's close to about 550. If I put a wheel on at 550 foot-pounds of torque, I'm gonna snap the wheel studs off. You don't use this for torquing. This is a torque wrench. It has a collar right here. This collar moves and there's adjustments and writing on the side of your torque wrench. It may not show up very well on camera here, but there is markings right on the torque wrench that say what the torque is. You want to set it properly on your torque wrench. And the reason this is important so that you don't snap a wheel stud, like I said. A lot of times there are certain things on a vehicle that if you don't specifically torque it to the right spec, you're going to break the components you're working with. A plastic intake is a prime example. If I get a chance, I'm going to go ahead and link one of the intake videos down below, probably during the first install where I was working on the bolts. You have to torque them down unless they're a go tight kind of bolt. On that situation, you went until you bottomed it out and the rubber grommets held it tight. But if you don't torque these properly, you're going to have things that are going to get damaged. When you install a wheel bearing on the back side, you're going to have bolts, usually 3 bolts or 4 bolts on the back that hold that wheel bearing in. That wheel bearing is important to torque properly as it goes around, because if the wheel bearing is not torqued into the spindle properly, it can wreck that. If you have a 4-wheel drive, you'll have a center nut. That center nut is a very specific torque because that center nut has to squeeze the bearing together to keep the right preload on that bearing in order to keep it from wearing out. And if you over torque it or under torque it, you're going to wreck that bearing. So what we're going to do is, I've already done this side of the truck on this one. We're going to jump over. I'm going to show you how to fix this problem when they over torque it, as long as you have the tools. And this is something you should do anytime you go to get your tires done. Don't trust the shop to always put it back to the way it should be. If you think that you need to go back and double check it, then do it. Don't question it. Just take the time and do it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break them loose with this. I'm going to lightly tap them on, so I'm not having to turn so much with this, but we need to torque them with this. So let me get you set up. Okay, I got you at about the right height for you to see what's going on here. So what you do when you come back from the tire shop, and this is a pretty simple process. On a 6-lug system like this, what you're going to do is break this one, and then these two or these two loose. You do 3 at a time. And the reason you're going to go ahead and break them loose is because you want to re-torque them. Okay, now that I've backed 3 of them off, I'm just going to lightly use this just to get them close. Okay, obviously I'm not cranking on it, because when you crank on them, you'll hear this thing click. So then, now with this torque wrench, what we're listening for is for it to click. Just like that. Now that stud is torqued to where it needs to be. Okay, and what you want to do is do it a couple of times just to make sure that you don't have any more issues. Just go ahead and, as long as you're not pressing it harder after you click it, then you're not messing with the torque. So now we're going to break the other 3 loose, which are going to be this one, and this one. And if you go to spin it back on and you go to put your torque wrench on and it clicks right away, back it off, redo it, and don't go as tight that next time. Okay, so this wheel is done. What we're going to do is jump to the back, and I'm probably going to be a little quicker with this one, because like I said, this truck is almost done. We're going to go ahead and finish this up. I'd like to get this out and clean this spot so we got room for the Crimson 5.7 real soon. Now the other thing we got left to do is we still got to do the same thing over on the Silver Swine. So my plan is, I'm just going to knock this one out, and I'll show how I put my wheel covers on after I get done torquing this one. So now, let me grab my wheel cover. On a GMC, your wheel covers are only held on the back by this ring and those plastic tabs. So if you snap them, cover won't go on very well. The other thing that's an issue is this chrome ring that goes around the outside of it, because it is pressed to conform to go around there. So there are divots. Line up the divots with the divot in the rim, which lines up with the small hole. Okay? What you're going to do is slide your cover into place. Try to get it in as best as you can. And then you're going to lightly tap it with your hand to drive it into place. Okay. So now this cover's on. We're good to go. I don't like these styles because they don't always fit very well. If you don't get the cover on properly, it will pop off on you when you're going down the road. So make sure you get your covers on right. If you have troubles with them, then take the covers off and try again. Don't just force it or think that it's good. If you don't like the way it feels, pop it back off. Sometimes you'll get a kink in these, and you'll have to take and tap that kink in and bend the metal in order to get it to fit properly. And that happens too, like you just saw right there, where the cover popped back out at me because I didn't have it seated enough before I started tapping it, so it just snapped out, came back out at me. Okay, cover's on, tight. The only thing I have left on this one, and the reason I can't take it out, is I need to double check my air pressures. That's something else I need to tell you. When you get done at a tire shop, oftentimes they're going to put it to whatever the safe rating is for their shop. Sometimes that may only be 28 pounds. 28 pounds on a car tire is not enough. I don't care who you are. You know it. That's not enough air. At 28 pounds, just the slightest pressure change in the air temperature from hot to cold can fluctuate that tire to the point where you're underinflated. That is a very dangerous level to be running at. That's where the Silver Swine was at. Front tires were at 28. That is too low. They needed to be probably about 32 to 36. For me, going into storage, I'm going to put it at 36. When I bring it out and I'm going to drive it next summer, I'm probably going to drop it down to about 34 to 32, which is about where that truck needs to run at, because that's what those tires are rated for. They're only really rated for 35 pounds of pressure in the tires, which is not a lot, but it's a cheaper tire on that truck. The two-wheel drive tank, on the other hand, has load range E tires on it. I was able to get them off of a heavier half-ton pickup, so they're meant to handle 65 pounds. The backs are only at 44 because that's how that tire was made. It's a cheaper tire, not as good as the tires on the front, but I will be rotating tires from front to rear in the summertime. And the only reason I'm going to do that this time is because the tires that I have in the back have more tread. I want more tire life for this winter when I'm driving through snow. So this winter at least, I'm running those back there. I will move those up front, probably late summer, maybe early fall. And then the heavier tires will be in the back. The reason for that is then I can put a heavier payload back there. If I haul something in this next summer where I need the heavier payload, I'll just go ahead and rotate tires then. No big deal. But I do have to check air pressures before I call this bad boy done. We got one more vehicle to do because I had to do tires on two vehicles. The socket size on a GMC is going to be a 22 millimeter. The socket size on the Toyota is a 21. So let me grab all those tools and I'll be right back. Okay, so 21 millimeter. And we're going to do this the same pattern because it's pretty much the same bolt pattern. In fact, there is a standing theory in the Toyota community that you can take the wheels off of a Toyota Tacoma, put them on a GMC, and vice versa. Now, the only reason you wouldn't be able to is if this is a 15 and that would be a 16. But if they're both 16s, you could use either one, either place. It's going to look weird having a Toyota symbol on your GMC or your GMC symbol on your Toyota. Something to keep in mind. Way too tight. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, it said 83 foot-pounds on the internet. I am going to go to 90. I don't think 83 is enough. And I do not want a tire coming loose. So I'm just going to up it to 90, and that's where I'm going to torque it at. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm double checking the studs to make sure that we didn't stretch a stud when they went to put these on. Because sometimes manufacturers will go cheap on their wheel studs. They don't put a grade 8 on them, which means if you over torque them, you're going to stretch them. You stretch them, you're done. That is a bad thing. I really wish on the Toyotas they would not have went with such a cheap wheel stud. For the little bit more that it would have costed them, they could have went with a better wheel stud. If we ever have to change them for any reason, I will be going with a better one. And the one thing I didn't say so far is you don't want to just take them all loose at one time. That is a very bad practice. What you want to do is take only a few of them loose and then torque those down to the proper torque spec and then do the other ones. On a 5-lug system, what you would do is like one up here, one here, and then you would flip it and do it the other way. The reason you don't want to just crack them all loose, that's not good. When you crack them all loose, you run into the issue of the wheel could fall off, it could slip. It may not give you a proper torque rating. And what you're trying to do is just reassure that your torque spec is correct. You're not trying to remove the wheel. You're not trying to do anything in here. Obviously, if you're removing the wheel, you're going to do this torque procedure properly without the impact, so you don't have to redo this step. This is only if you took it to a tire shop and you don't trust that they did it right. So what I got to do is I got to do the rest of the vehicle. I got to knock out this Toyota and get it out of here. This is the parking spot for champagne bubbles. I'm not allowed to take that spot up. So I'm going to go at it. I'm going to knock out the rest of this on the Toyota. I'm going to get the center caps put on. I'll show you how to do the center cap on a Toyota quick. Okay, Toyota center caps are pretty basic. You got your cutouts for your holes. you have one tab right here where the screwdriver goes in. Now what you want to do is look on your rim, see if there's a spot that you have a nick from where you were putting the screwdriver in to get it out. Because if you do have a nick in the rim, put it back in that same spot so you're not nicking up the rim all the time. So that's where I had it. So I'm going to go ahead and just like that. Now our center cap is back on our Toyota. We are good to go with that. So, like I said, I'm going to go do the rest of them, knock this out, and that's going to be about it for this video. I do plan on moving some stuff around and getting some different vehicles in. I'm not going to necessarily show that process. I do have to go pick up the Crimson 5.7. So maybe if I'm doing a garage cleanup, you'll get to see that bad boy again and hear it run. But I'd like to say thank you for watching. Please hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.